All right. Happy Sabbath, everybody. Today is May 29, 2021. And we're continuing about our studies about the restoration of the sanctuary. The restoration of the sanctuary, physical sanctuary in the time of Zechariah, of the time of Darius, and eventually we'll know it's also the time of the restoration during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah and all that, right? But we're still in the history of Zechariah. Zechariah was the prophet that was sent by God to encourage God's people who was getting discouraged about rebuilding the temple under Zerubbabel, right? And they had the second decree of Darius so that they can continue rebuilding it. But they were getting discouraged, and these 8 visions of Zechariah were to help them, encourage them, so that they will continue because of the help that God will give through them, through the Spirit. And it's not by might nor by power, but through the Spirit that Zerubbabel will finish the temple. All right? And all the enemies of Zerubbabel will be put under the footstool of Jesus, right? They will all be conquered. And God will have a sanctuary. God will have a tabernacle. God will have us. The church will be the bridegroom, that he will come and be joined with him. All right? So with that, we are going to go to the 8th and the final vision in the book of Zechariah, and the 8th vision. And let me go to it, and it's, all right, it's the 8th vision. It's, all right, the 4 chariots, right? If you want to open in Zechariah, it's Zechariah chapter 6. Zechariah chapter 6, right? Essentially, it's just Zechariah chapter 6. We're just going to read it, and then I'm going to ask you, as we read it, kind of see this. Obviously, there's a lot of symbols here, but try to figure out, when will this happen in the end times? All right, the 4 chariots. When does the vision of the 4 chariots will be accomplished in our time? In the end of the world. Okay, all right. Now, before going through this, I went through the EGW CD-ROM and look up the 4 chariots and the red and black and white and grizzled horses. And you know what? Ellen White does not mention anything about this vision. So I went to the pioneers' writings, which is also in the CD-ROM. You can go to the part where it's talking about the pioneers, and I typed in the 4 chariots, and there's only one mention of this vision by I can't remember one of the pioneers, but there's no mention of what it means. It just says, okay, Zechariah had 8 visions, and the last one was about the 4 chariots. And it just describes the 4 chariots, and that was it. So what does this mean? You know what? This was not put in the Bible, so it is just a nice story. It is put in the Bible so that we will study it and to see how it applies to us, right? In the end time. It has to be. It has to have some sort of meaning for us, right? Okay. Let's read it then. It's in Zechariah 6, right? And I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came 4 chariots from between 2 mountains. Okay, so there's 2 mountains, and in between of them are 4 chariots. And the mountains were mountains of brass. Okay, all right, keep reading. In the first chariot were red horses, and in the second chariot black horses. Now I was looking at this again, right away, the thing that came to my mind was, Well, you know, red horses and black horses, Revelation, right? Okay. The thing about it is, where are these horses in relation to the chariots? Are they pulling the chariots? The horses are actually in the chariots. Okay, so that's kind of unusual. The first chariot were red horses. In the first chariot were red horses. And in the second chariot, black horses. And in the third chariot, white horses. And in the fourth, grisled and bay horses. Okay, we're going to go through all of that later on. The thing of it is, like some of the other visions, you know, Zechariah did not understand what this meant. Right? Then I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, What are these, my Lord? And the angel answered and said unto me, These are the four spirits of heavens, which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. Okay, so there are four spirits that stand before the Lord of the earth. Right? Does that remind you of anything? What about the two anointed ones, which are the two trees, the two olive trees? Where are they? They are standing before the Lord of the earth, right? Right, yeah. These are the four spirits of heavens, right? Okay. The four spirits of heaven, which go forth standing before the Lord of all the earth. The black horses which are therein go in forth to the north country. The black one goes to the north country. The white go forth with them. So the white follow the black into the north. And then the grisled go forth into the south country. Right? And the bay went forth and sought to go that they might walk to and fro through the earth. Right? The bay one, right? The bay went to and fro through the earth. All right? So they walked to and fro through the earth. So the bay walked to and fro the earth. The black and the white one went to the north. The grisled one went to the south. And the bay one went to and fro through the earth. Then he cried upon me, and spake unto me, saying, Behold, these that go toward the north country have quieted my spirit in the north country. Oh, okay. All right. Obviously, a lot of meaning right here. But the thing that that is first mentioned here is the four chariots that come out from between the two mountains of brass. Okay, I got two mountains of brass here. I guess they kind of look brass, right? I didn't bother to change the color, okay? But there's two mountains, and from in between them are four chariots. So I got four chariots. And remember, the horses are in the chariots, okay? So there's four chariots that come out from between the two mountains. All right? Okay. Now, before we keep going and go and try to figure what this means, we're going to read the rest of the chapter, and I'm going to ask you, in what context is this application for us? Okay? All right? And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Take of them of the captivity of Heldai, Tobijah, and Jediah, which are come from Babylon. Okay? Take those who had come out of Babylon, and come thou the same day, and go into the house of Josiah the son of Zephaniah. Right? Then take silver and gold, and make crowns, and set them upon the head of Joshua the son of Josedek the high priest. So what do? You take those people who had come out of Babylon, right? And you go to the house of Josiah, and then what do? You make a crown and crown Joshua the high priest. You put a crown on the priest. Okay, all right. Now your mind is thinking, right? Now a priest is made a king, right? Because there is a crown that is put on the head of Joshua. Now Joshua is, remember Joshua, right? Joshua the high priest and the white robes, right? And the angel, Joshua and the angel, remember? This is talking about Joshua, right? Joshua is a priest, okay? Joshua is a priest that is made a king now, right? And speak unto him, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, Behold, the man whose name is the branch, and he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. Even he shall build the temple of the Lord, and he shall bear the glory. He shall sit and rule upon his throne, and he shall be a priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both. Okay, so there's the people who are come out of Babylon, right? There's also Joshua, who's a priest, who is also now crowned a king, all right? And then it's talking about the branch who builds the temple of the Lord, right? Who is the branch? I'm going to ask you right away. This is so easy. Who is the branch? Who's the branch? Now look at this. The branch is in all capitals. Who's the branch? Jesus. It's Jesus, right? Jesus is the branch. He built the temple of the Lord. And what was going to happen to him? He shall sit upon, and he shall become king. So he's the priest. So Joshua has to be Joshua represents now the high priest, which is the branch, who built the temple, right? And now will sit and rule upon the throne, right? And not only does he rule as a king, but he also shall be the priest on the throne. And the counsel of peace shall be between them both. And the crown shall be to Helam and Tobijah and to Jedaiah and to Hen the son of Zephaniah for a memorial in the temple of the Lord. And they that are far off shall come and build in the temple of the Lord. And ye shall know that the Lord of hosts has sent me unto you. And this shall come to pass, if ye will diligently obey the voice of the Lord your God. This will happen. Okay. All right. After reading this entire chapter, basically, when does this happen in our time? When does this happen? Is it the second coming? Oh, is it the second coming? Okay. Anybody have any other ideas? When will this happen? When will this happen? Okay, the context is when the people that have come, there's a people, the what? Okay, the third coming. Okay. Why do you say it's the third coming?
Because Jesus is crowned when the New Jerusalem comes.
All right, that is right. That's right. And what will he have now? He will have all those people, right, who have come out of Babylon. Now all his people that have come out of Babylon have come from earth and is now with him, right? As he is the high priest who is now crowned the king, right? Jesus. This is talking about the third coming, okay? This is talking about the third coming, right? Yeah. All right. And as you can see, it's talking about the counsel of peace shall be between them both. Obviously, we know the counsel of peace is between the Father and the Son, right? Why is it talking about the counsel of peace? Because the promise that was given at the counsel of peace, made at the counsel of peace before the earth was created, before even there was sin, yeah, there was already a promise, right, that Jesus will come and save his people, even though there was no sin yet. There was already a promise. And you know what? This is the final fulfillment of that promise. That's why this is the counsel of peace shall be between them both, right? This is the end, the final fulfillment of that counsel of peace. When Jesus has his final coronation, All right. Okay. But the thing about it is, what are those 4 chariots that has the 4 horses? Right? What are the 4 chariots that has the 4 horses? Have anything to do with the third coming of Jesus? The 4 chariots, right? I have a chariot right here. Okay. Yeah, what was? There you go. Okay, that's the judgment, right? It's talking about judgment, right? Yeah, because these are going throughout the whole earth and it's going to start judging, right? Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. Zechariah, so we go back to verse 2. In the first chariot were red horses. Okay, let me get. In the first chariot were red horses. And just to remind you, right, in verse 4, what does this mean? The chariots were the horses. What does this mean? It's the 4 spirits of the heavens. There are 4 spirits of heavens that go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth and goes to the earth, right? So these 4 spirits that are in heaven, they will go to earth. These are the 4 chariots with the horses. Okay, and it is red horses. Okay, hopefully you can see that there's a couple of red horses there, right? I got red horses. All right. So, if we want to do line upon line, what are we going to do? We're going to look for red horses, right? Where would we find red horses? We know there's red horses in the book of Revelation. Where's another red horse in the Bible? You remember studying about red horse? What about the first vision of Zechariah? The Zechariah 1 verse 8, right? I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse. That's the first vision. Remember? The first vision is about a red horse. And he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, and behind him were red horses. Also what? Speckled and white. Oh, these are related somehow. Because remember, here are red horses, black horses, white horses, grisled, and bay. Okay, this is talking about red horses, speckled, and white also. But remember, the Zechariah first vision is talking about red horses, right? Okay, right? And Zechariah did not know what it means. What does this mean? So, and the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, these horses are they whom the Lord has sent to walk to and fro through the earth. Right? These are the horses that are sent to walk to and fro through the earth. And they answered the angel of the Lord that stood among the myrtle trees and said, we have walked to and fro the earth. And what do they find when they walk to and fro the earth? Well, the horses have been walking to and fro the earth. And behold, the earth sitteth still and is at rest. Right? Is at rest. Okay, at the end of the 7,000 years, these horses will go and go to the earth and say, what happened? This earth has been at rest, right? The earth is sitting still for 1,000 years and is at rest, right? Then the angel of the Lord answered and said, O Lord of hosts, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and the city of Judah against thou hast had indignation these 70 years? These 70 years, right? And 70 years is what? Is the captivity of Babylon, right? But it is also 7 times, right? 1/7 of 490 years. 70 is 1/7 of 490 years that the children of God did not let their land rest. That's why the land had to rest for 70 years. What about the angels that have been walking to and fro? I already said it's the angels, okay? But it's the horses. The horses has been walking through the earth and they go, oh, the earth has been resting for how long? 1,000 years. And that is exactly 1/7 of 7 millenniums, right? 7,000 years. Because the earth will be 6,000 plus another 1,000, right? It'll be 7,000 years by the time Jesus comes back, the third time. So it's 1/7, right? The last 1/7, right? Yeah. Okay. So we can see the connection, all right? And the Lord answered the angel and talked with me with good words and comfortable words. The angel that communed with me said unto me, Cry thou, saying that thus the Lord of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem and Zion with a great jealousy, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction. I am displeased with these people, right, that had been trotting underfoot my city and my people and my tabernacle, and I will have indignation upon them, right? I'm displeased with them. They will be punished, right? Right. We know how they're punished, right? They're going to be burned in the lake of fire. Okay. All right. We know the red horses here has also got to be connected with, has to be connected with Revelation 6, right? Revelation 6 is about the red horses. Just for your reminder, the red horse in Revelation 6 represent what? All right. How many horses were there? That was shown. There's 4 horses, right? The first one was a white horse, and then there was a red horse. Okay? And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast. Okay. Who revealed the second horse, which is the red horse? The second beast. How many beasts are there in heaven around the throne of God? There are 4 beasts, right? There are 4 beasts. What does this beast say? Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. A great sword is to punish the earth, right? To take away peace from the earth. So there is a judgment that is coming, right? With this red horse, there's a judgment because of the people of God that had been trotting underfoot the city of God. Now the city of God is going to come down to earth, and those people that had been trotting underfoot this city will have to receive their executive judgment, right? Right. That's why with like a great sword. Okay. All right. Okay, what's the next horse? In the first chariot there were red horses, and in the second are black horses. It's a little bit difficult. I had a black background and I want to make it black, and I can't see a horse if I had made it all black. So I made it a little gray, I guess. Right? These are black horses. Right? Okay, where do you see black horses in the Bible also? It's Revelation again, right? It's in Revelation. And Revelation 6. Oh, before I go forward, let me go back to this one. All right, Revelation 6, the red horse. And the red horse represents which church? Our pioneers taught the red horse represents which church? Under the second seal, the red horse represents which church? The red horse. Red means what? Persecution. Bloody persecution, right? Which church suffered the most severe bloody persecution? Smyrna, right? The second seal, okay, just to read from Uriah Smith, Synopsis of the Present Truth. The second seal introduces a red horse. Under this seal, peace is taken from the earth, and events of strife and confusion are introduced. This is shown by a great sword in the truth of him that sat on this horse, right? This is Smyrna, all right? This is Smyrna. When the people were persecuted, all right? Persecuted by the pagans. Okay, all right. Okay, so we go back to the black horse, right? And then he had opened the third seal. The third seal, the beast says, come and see. And behold, and I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he sat on him, had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see, thou hurt not the oil and the wine. What do you see this as? There's this person on a black horse holding a what? A balance. What would you say a balance would mean? Judgment, right? There's going to be judgment. There's going to be executive judgment. All right, thank you. That's right. It's judgment, right? There's going to be judgment, right? The black horse brings judgment. All right. And a measure of wheat and 3 measures of barley. Okay? According to Uriah Smith, these would represent the earthly goods. The people who are being judged would rather have earthly goods, right? Their economy is going to be, right? They're going to be hit hard, but they cannot hurt the oil and the wine because they refuse the oil and the wine, because they refuse the Holy Spirit, right? That's from the Synopsis of Present Truth by Uriah Smith, right? And this is the black horse. Is the time of what? Black means darkness, apostasy, right? Black means the horse. Which church as represented? No, Smyrna is the red one with the black one with the apostasy. When you have a compromise between compromise, the church of compromise. Which one is the church of compromise? Compromise the truth. Truth becomes dark. No, it's not yet. It's Pergamus, right? It's Pergamus, all right. Thyatira is the pale horse, right? That's the one that will kill all of God's people, all right? But the black horse is Pergamus, right? That's when the apostasy in doctrine and practices takes place in the church, right? Okay. The balances denoted that religion and civil power would be united in the person who would administer the executive power in the government, and that he would claim the judicial authority both in church and state. Okay, so who is this? There's a compromise, right, between church and state, right? Now the black horse also represents the church and state. Where do you see the church and state? When Jesus comes to earth, what will happen? He is a priest who is what? Who is what? Crowned as a king. What does that represent? What will his government be? His government will be the true church and state, right? Because all this time on earth, there has been a false church and state, right? Where the church dictates the state, right? And had fornicated with another ruler, right? There's a false church and state. But the true church and state is when Jesus, as the high priest, is crowned as what? As king. Right? So his government will be the true church and state. All right? Okay, now we're seeing all these things, right? They all line up together, right? Yeah, okay. Right. What's the next one? And the third chariot, white horses. Okay. The church, we did the, we'll do the white horse last, okay? But what we'll do is in the fourth chariot. The fourth chariot is grisled and bay. Okay, the first thing I go, what is grisled? What does grisled mean? So I have to find, okay, grisled is actually buried. Grisled is actually buried. And bay is a mutz. A mutz, right? We'll find out what the meaning of this is. But the thing is that I want to find another instance in the Bible, right? A precept here and a precept there. Okay? Where is in the Bible another instance of an animal that is grisled? And the story is actually in the story of Jacob, who is tricked by Laban, right? Jacob goes to Laban and he was tricked to work for 7 years. Instead of getting Rachel, he got who? Leah. And he was tricked, right? Because he tricked his father, right? So that's why he got tricked, right? And Laban tricked him. And the amazing thing is Laban changed his wages 10 times, right? This is your wages. Oh, I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it again. I'm going to change it. 10 times Jacob was tricked. He was tricked in getting Leah, and his wages were changed 10 times. And this is what happened. Laban says, okay, I'm going to give you your wage, right? Any of the cattle that are born ring-streaked, they have rings around them, they will be all yours. You can have any of the cattle that are born ring-streaked. And you know, that probably doesn't happen very often. You know, he's going to say, okay, if they're, you know, all these, and you know what happened? All the cattle that was born were ring-streaked. So what happened? All the cattle that were ring-streaked, now all the new cattle became Jacob's. Okay, so Laban goes, okay, I will give you all the cattle that is born speckled. And what happened? All the cattle were born speckled. So now he gets all the ring-streaked cattle, he gets all the speckled cattle, and then Laban says, okay, for your wages, you are going to get the grisled cattle and that are born. And what happened? All the cattle that was born were grisled. So Jacob got the ring streak, the speckled, and the grisled. Okay, what does grisled mean? Grisled means like hail. Look, there's like white spots that looks like hail, right? Yeah. Speckled. Speckled means it's bright. It's bright. Right? And ring streak has got to be, there's streaks like rings. Okay, but these are unusual patterns, right? Unusual patterns. Okay? Right. Okay, where else do we see this? Where else do we see grisled and speckled? Remember, in Zechariah 1, right? In the first vision, the horses that went to and fro the earth and say that the earth was at rest and needs to be punished. One of them horses are speckled. Okay, so we have grisled, bay, speckled. Grisled, bay, and speckled. What does this mean? Okay, all right, let's go to the dictionary. Saruk is bright red, means that is bay. So bay is saruk, which is bright red or speckled. It is so bright that it looks like it's speckles. It's a bright red. So I put a bright red right here in the back, and this is the one that is grisled, right? The bay is bright red, and the the grisled is this one, right? Because grisled is actually means spotted as if with hail, right? Because it's the horse that is spotted as if with hail. So it's got white dots on it that looks like hail. So I decided just to make it look like this. All right. This is just my representation of it. All right. Okay. What about bay? What is bay? It's a strong colored, right? Strong colored, which also means red. A strong red color. It's got to be a bright red color, right? Bright red. That is bay. Also speckled. So bay and speckled are the same. Bay and speckled are the same, and it's red. Okay? It's also red. Yeah. Okay. And this is grisled has spots on it that looks like hail. All right. So these are the horses that come in. Okay. All right. What about the white horse? Now the white horse is purity. Yeah, we know it's purity, and we know it's in Revelation 6 also, right? And but also we know it in Revelation 1. Zechariah 1. There's also in the first vision there's also white horses, and these white horses with the speckled and the red horses go to and fro the earth, right? And looking at the earth and says the earth has to be punished. Okay? All right. And then we also see it in Revelation 6. What is the white horse of Revelation 6? Anybody remember the white horse of Revelation 6? It's which seal? It's the first seal, right? The white horse. And there's a rider who went forth with a bow and a crown. What? Conquering and to conquer. Right? Which represents the purity of the church. So the church will be pure. Right? There will be a pure church that will conquer, that will conquer, right? Conquer the universe, right? Conquer the entire world. All right, will conquer the entire world. There will be the purity of the church that will conquer the world, and it's represented by which church again? Ephesus, right? The first church is a white horse, which is Ephesus, right? It's a pure church that conquers. The red horse is the one that goes, will bring destruction with like a sword. The black horse is the one that is like church and state. All right? Okay, like church and state. Okay. Is there another horse in the Bible? Is there another white horse in the Bible? Do you remember any representation of a white horse in the Bible? There's another one. If anybody could remember. Another white horse in the Bible. It's in the book of Revelation. Who will come down from heaven with all his followers riding a white horse? It's Revelation 19. And I saw heaven opened, and behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. He judges and makes war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. It has crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. He had a red vesture, red coat. And his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses. Right? That's white horses. Right, so Jesus comes with white horses. With is a pure church that comes to conquer, right? To conquer the world, right? And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, right? A sharp sword come out of his mouth, because out of the mouth of Jesus is a sharp sword, like a sharp sword, a two-edged sword, right? A two-edged sword, right? That will cut and also purify, right? That with it he shall smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and the wrath of Almighty God. And he hath on his vestures and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. All right, so now we see that the white horse has Jesus riding on it, right? And Jesus. So all these representations, we can see that it represents Jesus coming down, right? With his church, with the city coming down, right? To give judgment to the world, right? Because he's going to set up a true church and state, the government, which is led by him as a priest and the king, right? The King of Kings, Lord of Lords. All right. Okay, we keep going, all right? And the angels answered and said unto me, these are the four spirits of heaven. So the four horses and chariots are the four spirits of heaven. They go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. And the black horses, where? They go to the north, and the white horse follows to the north, right? And I just happened to look at this graphic. Hey, you know what? There's a black horse and a white horse in the north country, right? In the north, you know what? In the snow. A black horse and a white horse that goes to the north. And a grisled that goes forth to the south. So here you go. The grisled goes to the south, all right? And what about the bay? What is the bay? The bay is the red one. The red one is a bright red. Where does it go?
Around, to and fro.
To and fro through the earth. So I would say if this go to the north, this go to the south, then the bay goes where? To and fro.
East and west.
East and west. So these four horses, where do they go? To the four corners of the earth. Does this remind you of anything? The ministering spirits, right, are the angels that are in the four corners of the earth. And what do they hold in the four corners of the earth? The winds of strife, right? And they will let it go when the angel will tell them to let it go. And they will hold it when the angel tells them to hold it, right? There's the four angels that hold the four winds of the earth on the four corners of the earth, right? Okay. Now see, so these four spirits of heavens, does this remind you of anything? That stand forth standing before the Lord of all earth? Four spirits that stand before the Lord. Where do you see that? Four spirits that stand before the Lord. Where do you see that? What about in Ezekiel? Ezekiel 1. How many creatures are there? There are four creatures. Where do they stand? Next to the throne of God, right? There's four creatures each with four faces. A man, lion, eagle, and an ox. And they have four wings. And they control what? Four wheels. There's four creatures. And these four creatures in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 10, are also what? What are they? The four creatures are also called what? In chapter 10. They have four faces. And they control four wheels. And what are they called? In chapter 10, they're not called creatures. What are they called? They're called cherubims. So they are angels, right? So these creatures are actually angels. Remember we did this a couple of weeks ago? The creatures are angels, all right? And in the book of Revelation, how many beasts are before the throne? Four beasts, right? And then also, there's 24 elders. And these four beasts, Ellen White in Prophets and Kings, 721.1, calls them what? The four beasts. The four creatures. The four creatures are also four cherubims. They are angels, and they have 4 faces, each of them facing the 4 corners of the earth, right? And what do these 4 beasts do in Revelation 6? They show to John the 4 horses, right? Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira. These 4 beasts revealed to John. Come and see. See what? See what's going to happen to the earth, all right? See what's going to happen to the earth, right? What about in Revelation 7? And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, right? There's the 4 angels holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor the sea, nor on any tree. And then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth. Right? Who's the sealing angel? Who's the sealing angel? The angel that seals is the 3rd angel. Who's the 3rd angel? The sealing angel. The angel with the rider's inkhorn, which is also who? Gabriel. Remember? That's also Gabriel, right? And Gabriel will tell who? Will tell the angels that hold the 4 winds of the earth, right? The 4 winds of the earth in the 4 corners, right? These are the 4 beasts. These are the 4 angels that hold the strife, right? To also let go, right? So the strife is gonna come upon the whole earth, right? Strife is gonna come upon the whole earth. You know, we already know that that's gonna happen. Also, obviously, at the 3rd coming of Jesus, right? Yeah, right. Okay. All right. So what about the 2 mountains? The 2 mountains that are of brass, right? And from in between those mountains is a valley, and from those come out the 4 chariots with the 4 horses. What about the 2 mountains? Right? You don't have to look that far, actually, in Zechariah 14, right? Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations. He's going to come and fight against those nations. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem, on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof towards the east and towards the west. And there shall be a great, very great valley, and half of the mountain shall be removed toward the north, and half of it towards the south. So how many? The Mount Olives will be cleaved into how many mountains? 2 mountains, right? In the middle of that will be a great valley, right? It'll be in the north and in the south. And in the middle will be a great valley, right? And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal, and ye shall flee like ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. All right, so God will come. Jesus will come with all the saints, right? Riding a white horse, right? All right, and we jump to here. And it shall be that day that living waters shall come out of from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them towards the hinder sea. Now, what does this remind you of? When Jerusalem comes down, what is actually coming down also? The Garden of Eden, right? The Garden of Eden will come down also. And how many rivers come out of the Garden of Eden? There's actually 4, right? There's Gihon, Pison, and Hiddekel, and Euphrates, right? Euphrates and Tigris go into one sea, right? The Tigris and the Euphrates go into one sea. And Gihon and Pison, we don't know what rivers that is now. But we, so half of the rivers go to one sea, and half of the rivers go to another sea. And that's like the Garden of Eden. So the Garden of Eden will be restored back on earth. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. Right? So these two mountains is the Mount of Olives that is cleaved into two. Right? Okay. At the close of the 1,000 years, Christ again returns to the earth. He is accompanied by hosts of redeemed and attended by a retinue of angels. As he descends in terrific majesty, he bids the wicked dead arise. So who raises the dead? The wicked dead? It's Jesus. Jesus raises the wicked dead, right? He bids the wicked dead to arise, to receive their doom, right? But the difference is, when the wicked rise, what do they look like? They bear the traces of disease and death. But what about God's people when they are resurrected? They are clothed with immortal youth and beauty, right? So Jesus resurrects both of these groups, right? The general resurrection, they will rise in youth and beauty, and the resurrection of the wicked will be full of disease and death, so that they can receive their doom, their executive judgment, right? At the end of the 1,000 years, right? Christ descends upon the Mount of Olives, whence after his resurrection he ascended, and where angels repeated the promise of a return, right? And his feet shall stand on that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and Mount Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof, right? All right, we read this already before. As the new Jerusalem in its dazzling splendor comes down out of heaven, it rests upon the place purified and made ready to receive it. And Christ with his people and the angels enter into the holy city, right? And then what happens? At that time, all the wicked have been gathered outside, right? All the wicked will gather outside. And where are they gathered? Well, I guess, it is called the valley, right? They'll be gathered in a valley. Assemble yourself and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourself together round about. Hither cause the mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The vats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Right? They are in the valley of decision. They have made up their minds. They are not going to follow God. Right? They are going to be judged. All the heathen will be judged. Ezekiel 39 here. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place place there of graves in Israel, the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea, and it shall stop the noses of the passengers. Oh, it will stink so much. And there shall they bury Gog and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamongog, right? They will bury all the dead, right? Gog and Magog will be buried, right? In the valley of Hamongog, right? This is the valley. So we have the two mountains, which is actually one mount, the Mount of Olives, that is split into two, right? North and south. Okay? And there's going to be a big valley, right? That valley, this is where all the people will receive their executive judgment. They that have been judged will receive their executive judgment. Okay, right? I will read this part again, right? Those who have come out of Babylon will go into the house of Josiah, and they will make crowns, and they will crown Josiah the priest as the king, right? He that have built the temple of the Lord, which is the branch that have built the temple of the Lord will be crowned a king. So he will establish the true church and state government, right? And the counsel of peace shall be between them both. So Jesus will be crowned at the final coronation, all right? So this is the time that I'm just going to kind of summarize what happened at this time. You probably have all read this. You might have forgotten, but you've read all of this. It's the last chapter, right? In Great Controversy, right? The last chapter, right? So the people have already been risen from the dead, all the wicked, and the city will come down. And then the people will all gather together. At last the order is to advance is given, and the countless host moves on, an army such as never summoned by earth conquerors, just as the combined forces of all ages since the war began on earth should never equal. Satan, the mightiest of warriors, leads the van, and his angels unite the forces in his final struggle. Kings and warriors are in his train, and the multitudes follow in vast companies, each under its appointed leader. With military precision, they serried ranks advance over the earth's broken and uneven surface to the city of God. By command of Jesus, the gates of the New Jerusalem are closed, and the armies of Satan surround the city and make ready for the onset. Right? In the presence of the assembled inhabitants of earth and heaven, the final coronation of the Son of God takes place. And now invested with supreme majesty and power, the King of Kings pronounces sentence upon the rebels against his government and executes justice. This is now executive judgment upon those who have transgressed his law and oppressed his people, right? So now that he is crowned king, now he can pronounce executive judgment because he's now king, right? This is his final coronation. Right? As if entranced, the wicked have looked upon the coronation of the Son of God. They see in his hands the tables of the divine law, the statutes which they have despised and transgressed. They witness the outburst of wonder, rapture, and adoration from the saved. And as the wave of melody sweeps over the multitudes without the city, all with one voice exclaim, "Great and marvelous are thy works, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints." Right? And falling prostrate, they worship the Prince of Life. Right? And all this is seen by the people outside. Right? If they have seen Jesus holding the 10 Commandments, right? The law of God that they have despised and they have trampled upon. Satan seemed paralyzed. And we read this already before, right? When we were reading about Satan as the covering cherub, right? Satan paralyzed as he beholds the glory and majesty of Christ. He who once a covering cherub, he used to be a covering cherub. He remembers whence he has fallen. A shining seraph, son of the morning, how changed, how degraded. He was a covering cherub and he's a shining seraph. He was a cherub and a seraph, right? We did this a couple of weeks ago, right? He's a cherub. And it is not by the number of their wings that you classify them. It is because of the type of work that they do, right? The shining seraph, which is, and he's called the son of the, he's the son of the morning. Lucifer means, that's what Lucifer means. The son of the morning. And what does the son of the morning want to have the whole universe do? Worship the son of the morning, right? The son of the morning comes out from where? From the east, right? He comes out of the east. It's like the sun. So what does he want to be? What does he wish? That people worship him, the son of the morning. That's why he wants the symbol of it as the worship of the sun, right? The worship of the sun, right? It's a type of worship of the son of the morning, which is the worship of Lucifer. How changed, how degraded from the council where once he was honored, he is forever excluded. He sees another, right? Who does he see? Another standing near to the Father, veiling his glory. The other one is covering the Father's glory. He's covering the Father, right? This used to be the job of Lucifer. He was the covering cherub. Now he's veiling the glory of the Father. He has seen the crown placed upon the head of Christ by an angel of lofty stature and majestic presence. And he knows that exalted position of this angel might have been his, right? Yeah. So Gabriel received that exalted position of honor to crown Jesus, right? Who had been a priest, and now also becomes the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, right? That's amazing. Amazing honor that is given to Gabriel, right? For all the work that is done, right? Okay. Now we see Ellen White's comments here about the Council of Peace. And the Council of Peace, it is between them both. Okay, now we read it. Ellen White actually chooses Zechariah with another version of Zechariah, right? The relation between the Father and the Son and the personality of both are made plain in this scripture also, right? This is from Testimonies, Volume 8. Thus speaketh Jehovah of hosts. Okay. If you look in the King James Version, what does it say? Thus speaketh what? The Lord of hosts. But in the ARV is actually the Jehovah of hosts. And Ellen White actually chooses this translation. The Jehovah of hosts, saying, right? So who is it? God the Father is saying, behold, right? Behold the man whose name is the branch. Behold Jesus. He shall grow out of his place. He shall build the temple of Jehovah. He shall bear the glory. He shall sit and rule upon this throne. He shall be a priest upon his throne. And what? And the council of peace will be between the Jehovah as host and the branch. This is between them both, because we say, who's them both? Right? It's between the branch and who? It's between the branch and the Jehovah of hosts, right? Between them both, right? It's between Jehovah and hosts and the branch. Okay? Ellen White actually uses a different version of the Bible, KJV, to specify specifically who is this them. Who's them? It's the Jehovah of hosts and the branch. Okay. The great plan of redemption was laid before the foundation of the world. In the what? In the council of peace. And it was between the Jehovah of hosts and the branch, right? It's between the Father and the Son. And Christ, our substitute and surety, did not stand alone in the wondrous undertaking of the ransom of man. In the plan to save the lost world, the counsel was between them both. The counsel of peace was between the Father and the Son. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. The majesty of heaven, the King of glory, would become a servant. The only begotten Son, in whom the Father delight, was given for the ransom of a fallen race. Right. The work of Christ as man's intercessor is presented in that beautiful prophecy of Zechariah concerning him, whose name is the branch. Says the prophet, he shall build the temple of the Lord, and he shall bear the glory. He shall sit and rule upon his. He shall rule upon the Father's throne. Wow. And he shall be a priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both, between the Father and the Son. Right? He shall build the temple of the Lord. By his sacrifice and mediation, Christ is both the foundation and the builder of the church of God. What is he doing? He is restoring the church of God, the soul temple, right? His church, which is a group of individuals, right? Right? That now represents the dwelling of him. Because I want to dwell in amongst you. I want to dwell in you, right? I want to dwell in my tabernacle. I want to dwell in my church, right? Because he is the foundation and the builder of this church, right? He dwells within us, and we are the soul temple. The Apostle Paul points to him as the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building fit framed groweth into a holy temple in the Lord, in whom ye also, he says, are builded together for an habitation of God through the Spirit. Okay, we have a couple more slides, right? And the counsel of peace shall be between them both. The love of the Father, no less than of the Son, is the foundation of salvation is the fountain of salvation for the last race. The love of the Father and the love of the Son is the fountain of salvation for the last race. Said Jesus to his disciples before he went away, I say not unto you that I will pray the Father for you, for the Father himself loveth you. God was in Christ, reconciling the world unto himself. And in the ministration of the sanctuary above, the counsel of peace shall be between them both. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, right? It's between the Father and the Son, representing the love of them, right? So that they made a pact that they will send, right? The Father will send his Son. That was already agreed upon even before the creation of the world in the eternity past, in the counsel of peace. And this was a secret, right? This was a secret. Because if Satan had known this, Satan would not have killed Jesus, right? This was a secret. Jesus could give alone security to God, for he was equal with God. He gave security to the Father. What does it mean? He alone could be a mediator between God and man, for he possessed divinity and humanity. Jesus could thus give security to both parties for the fulfillment of the prescribed conditions. As the Son of God, he gives security to God in our behalf. And as the eternal Word, as one equal with the Father, he assures us that the Father's love to us who believe his pledged word. When God would assure us of his immutable counsel of peace, he gives his only begotten Son to become one of the human family. Yeah. The Father says in the counsel of peace, okay, you will become one of them, right? And you will save them. And when will the final fulfillment of that counsel of peace be fulfilled? The final fulfillment? When he set up his church and state again. When all of sin will be blotted out. When all of sin will be burned, and all the sinners will all be burned, right? Yeah. That will be the final fulfillment of the promise that was given in the council, that was made in the council of peace, right? Jesus will now regain his church, right? He will give back the Eden back to Adam and Eve and the posterity of Adam and Eve. And they will have dominion of the earth again, right? Forever to retain his human nature as a pledge that God will fulfill his word. Wow. Okay. So, as the last slide, I will have a summary, okay? And the summary is basically about the Day of Atonement, all right? The Day of Atonement is when Jesus has to be atoned, right, with his church, with his people, with his soul temple, right? The church. Jesus had to be made one, right? The atonement is 1 month, where Jesus is made one with his people, and his people has to be made perfect, right? The Day of Atonement is where we can see this illustrated, right? So we'll just go quickly. What is the Day of Atonement? When does the Day of Atonement start, right? It starts with the blowing of the horns and the collection of the offerings. There's a bullock, a ram, and goats. Sheep. How many sheep? There's 7. There's 7 of them, right? We did this all before. Okay, right? This is the Day of Atonement. This is how it starts, right? And then the priest will bring 2 live goats, right? And what do they have to do? They have to choose one of them. And how do they choose? With the throwing of lots. And the one that falls on one goat will become the goat of the Lord, and the other one will become what? The goat of Azazel, right? The goat of Azazel, right? And what happens to the goat of the Lord? The goat of the Lord is sacrificed, and one of the bullocks is also sacrificed. The goat of the Lord is sacrificed for who? The goat of the Lord is sacrificed for who? For the people. Okay, what about the bullock? The bullock is sacrificed for who? For the priest and the family of the priest. To make them holy, they have to be holy. They have to sacrifice the goat of the Lord and the bullock, right? To make holy the people and the priest and his family, right? Okay, and what happens? What happens? The blood is taken, right? Where is the blood taken? Okay, if you remember, this is a review of the Day of Atonement. Where is the blood taken? It's taken all the way into the most holy place, right? And it is sprinkled how many times on the mercy seat? I already said that. 1 time towards the east, right? Right? To what is it doing? When the high priest does this, what does he do? He is fulfilling the demands of the what? Of the commandment of God, of the law of God that says what? If you break the law of God, what do you have to suffer? You have to suffer death. So this is the paying of that penalty, to fulfill that penalty of that law that says if you break the law, you have to die. But then the blood is sprinkled where? After this, where is the blood sprinkled? In front of the ark. And what's in front of the ark? Outside of the ark, the law of Moses. And how many times it is sprinkled there? 7 times. Why 7 times? Because if you break the law of Moses, you have to what? You have to suffer and be scattered 7 times. So this fulfills the demands of the law of Moses, right? Jesus died once, and he also suffered 7 times during the what? During the 7 tribunals, right? Okay. Right? And then where does the high priest go after that? Does he stay in the most holy? No, he goes to the holy place, right? Because what is in the holy place? All the sins that has been deposited there throughout the whole year, right? And what does he do? With the finger, what does he do? He touches the horn, right? And then he sprinkles it 7 times, right? Why does he touch it? Why does he touch this? What does the touching mean? Touching transfers the sins that have been deposited there throughout the whole year to who? Now it goes to who? To the high priest. So now the sins are borne by the high priest, right? And what does the high priest do? Now he goes and transfer it to the scapegoat, right? He goes and transfer it to the scapegoat, right? Yeah. But remember, during this time, he's wearing what kind of clothing? He wears simple white clothing of the regular Levite, right? Of the regular priest. He does not wear, right? But after this, after he transfers it to the live goat, what does he do? He washes himself and then he changes raiment. So he changed clothing to the regular high priest clothing, right? Yeah. So he changes raiment. He changes his clothing. And then a fit man takes that scapegoat, the live goat, and takes it to the wilderness, all right? Is this the end of the Day of Atonement? Is this the end of the Day of Atonement?
No.
No, it keeps going, right? We're not done yet, okay? Because what happens? What about these animals here? What happened to the animals? They just lay around? Right? These animals, the blood is already taken and is sprinkled, right? In the most holy place, and it is sprinkled in the holy place to cleanse the tabernacle and to cleanse the people, right? The tabernacle, the altar, and the people have to be cleansed, right? But what about these dead animals? Are they just going to be left there? No, they're not just left there. What happens to them? What happens to them? Their fat is taken away from them, right? They have to take the fat out of that. They have to take the fat out of these animals. What does that mean? That the fat has to be taken out away and stripped out of the meat, right? This is dead meat now. The fat has to be taken out of the meat. What does the fat mean? What does fat mean? Sin, right? The sin that is in the flesh has to be taken out, right? Right, yeah, absolutely, right? And what happens to that meat? What happens to that meat, this fat? It has to be what? It has to be burned on the altar of burnt sacrifice. But remember, on the altar of burnt sacrifice, there's also what? There's blood down here that contaminates the earth, right? Representing whose blood? The people who has never confessed their sins, and they have never transferred their sins to the holy place, right? Their sins remain down here, contaminating the earth, right? Right. There's their sins right there. So the earth is still contaminated. So what happens? What happens with these animals? Do they stay there after their fat is burned? The animals are then taken outside of the camp. Taken outside of the camp and burned, right? Is that the end of it? It's a trick question. Is that the end of it? No. Right? Why? Because the fit man has to do what? After he has taken the scapegoat out, what does the fit man have to do? He has to change his clothing and has to wash himself before he can come back to the camp. He has to be purified. What happens to the people who take this bullock out and burn it? What do they have to do? They have to wash and clean themselves before they can return to the camp. And that's the end of the Day of Atonement. All right. Is there a meaning to this for all of us? Right? Is this a representation of what's going to happen or has been happening? Right? Obviously, right? Okay. So we have this, right? I just put what we already had before, all right? When is the sanctuary cleansed? For us prophetically, when is the sanctuary cleansed? At the end of the 2300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Jesus moves into the most holy place, and what does he do? He sprinkles it one time on the mercy seat and 7 times on the law of Moses, right? So when does that happen? October 22, 1844. What happens there? The judgment of the righteous dead. And where do we see the judgment of the righteous dead? Which seal? Which seal shows the judgment of the righteous dead? The martyrs that are under the altar. What are they doing? They're asking, how long will we continue to be under here? And those people that had been persecuting us and had killed us, when will they be judged? Right? They said, oh, wait, because there has to be more people that will have to die as well and join you before they will be judged. Right? So this is the 5th seal. Right? And when does the 5th seal end? The 5th seal end when the Revelation 18 angel comes down. Revelation 18 angel comes down, and when the sprinkling of the Holy Spirit starts. And the sprinkling of the Holy Spirit starts, and that's the beginning of the budding of the leaves, right? This is the budding of the leaves, right? The budding of the leaves, right? And the sprinkling is so that God's people who are living can benefit from the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, so that during their judgment of the living, they will be made ready for what? For the Sunday law, when there will be a furnace 7 times hotter. Their eyes will be opened, and they will be given a new raiment, and a mitre will be put in their head, and they will receive the seal of God, right? They will receive the seal of God, right? Okay. At this time, what happens to their sins? Their sins are transferred to who? Or to Satan, right? They can no longer remember their sins anymore. Why? Because it's forever put on Satan. Here, they cannot go through here, right? They cannot remember any more sins. They are sealed. They cannot, right? Because when the universal Sunday law happens, and Michael stands up, right? Michael stands up, and Michael will have a change of clothing. He will change from a what? From a high priest clothing into what? Kingly robes, right? Kingly robes clothing, right? And then there will be the time of Jacob's trouble, right? Right. This is when the wicked will be wicked, and the righteous will be righteous still. Because the wicked, they never confess their sins. So what do they have to do? They have to suffer the 7 times, right? They have to suffer the 7 times of the 7 plagues. And in that time also, they have to also die, right? They have to suffer and they die, right? But are there any sinners left there? There are still some that are raised up, right? They're raised up specifically so that they can see Jesus come. And who are these? Who are these sinners? Caiaphas and the Roman soldiers who pierced Jesus, right? They're raised up right here, right? They're still. Right? So, and these people obviously still have their sinful flesh, right? And God, and before Jesus comes, people will still have their sinful flesh, right? And their sinful flesh has to be taken away from them, right? And this is when they're raised up. Here, their sinful flesh is taken away from them when Jesus comes. You know, their fat has to be burned, so their sinful flesh is taken away from them, and they are changed in a twinkling of an eye, right? At the general resurrection, right? Okay, but there's another resurrection. The resurrection for the wicked dead. Because the earth has been at rest, and now they have to receive their judgment. So this is the carcass, right? And the earth that has been polluted by their sins has to also be burned. That's why the earth is also burned, and the carcass is also burned. When at the third coming of Jesus, right? And that's the fulfillment of the promise given from eternity past at the counsel of peace that was between the Jehovah of hosts and the branch, right? Wow. So this concludes our study, right, about the 4 chariots, right, that have the 4 horses. And when we see the whole picture, we can see that it has to mean the angels that had been holding the 4 winds, right? They had been holding it, and they have to let go, because strife will come again, and also the judgment will have to come again. And all these things also happen at this time too, right? Because the angels will let go all the strife that will come at the third coming of Jesus, right? Yeah. All right. Okay. Wow, that was an interesting study for us, you know, specifically because there was really no commentary on this vision in any of Ellen White's writings or in any of the pioneer writings. So we have to get all these summaries based on the fact that we've been studying the visions of Zechariah, which is a template for the visions of John in Revelation. So we combine the visions in Zechariah with the visions of John, right? Because the visions of John, we see it uses the template that is given in the visions of Zechariah. All right? Okay, I hope this has been enlightening for all of you, as it has been for me to try to study this vision and find out what the meaning of it is. And